Well, this ending is as serious as the name of the ending. Essentially, here the protagonist consumes a mushroom and goes into a cuckoo land, where he loses the plot. This is more of a comic relief ending, which doesn't seem...
Ain't never seen tears from a gangster, so why don't you want me to cry?
No, I'm not human. All 10 endings explained. Hey, so if y'all been tapped in with the gaming world, y'all know that everybody has been playing this game. If you don't know what this game is, right, you know, there's a world ending, just about world ending, catastrophic event that's going on. You know what I'm saying? You got to stay in the house, and you have to let people in the house. I don't know why that's a mandatory thing, but you have to let niggas in the house. Pretty much the reason why you're in the house is because you can't go outside because the temperature and heat keeps rising outside and all that. And there's these creatures that are going around, they call visitors. And they're like imposters on some Among Us type shit. If you let them in, you can end up killing the people you already got in the house, and then eventually you might end up dead yourself. That's pretty much the basis of it. If you want to know more about it, go watch a nigga play the game. Because I'm not about to keep explaining it to you. Or, you know what I'm saying? Watch this video if you want to. Let's hop into it.
The full version is finally here, and we got so many different endings and different visitors this time around. The story stayed ambiguous, and there's so much left for us to interpret and theorize on. The game has about 10 different endings, with each one of them unveiling parts of the strange story. I already went over the story and the best possible ending in my opinion, where we meet a godly deity inside a mysterious hole, which is only found through letting the Persian cat in, who pulls the rug on the floorboards, revealing a secret hatch door. Going down into the hatch, we uncover a half-dug path which leads to a tunnel system. In here, we can discover a man who has sent one of his friends down a mysterious hole, not knowing what is down there. Going down ourselves, we enter a paranormal place where we find a floating object known as Death. This entity speaks in riddles and seems very peaceful and merciful. It seems as if this deity is some sort of a judge to what sort of character we are and knows too much about people it has never met before. Meeting the protagonist, the entity instantly knows who he is and what he most desires. For him, he teleports the protagonist into a lonely place, somewhere plentiful, a grassland with one lonely house. The entity describes it as a place that the protagonist has always wanted.
Bro, it's crazy how there is so much extraness to this game, like hidden context and all that. Yeah, there's no way I would play through all that. I would definitely be watching a video just like this.
And as such, it provided this place to him. Entering the house and the place.
But then again, in the future, you know what I'm saying, when that gaming channel come through, I just might. I don't know. If I like a game enough, I just might do it.
The protagonist slowly transcends humanity and every feeling revolving around it. He forgets about his fears and anxiety. He doesn't feel lonely anymore and feels at complete peace and calm. He seemingly spends the eternity there, ignorant of the misery in the outside world and every challenge anyone is faced with. It's unclear what this place is and what the entity was, but my best guess is that the protagonist died when falling into the hole and instead entered the afterlife, where he would spend the rest of his days in a lonely place, yet being at peace and calm. To some, this might seem like a horrible end, but for the protagonist, this is an ending where he can feel at peace, as he even slowly forgets how he ended up here and who he spoke to before entering this place.
That's basically what happened. He took a giant fall, then died.
Another ending which could also be found in the demo version of the game is where we let the super visitor in.
Bruh, this nigga right here, I promise you, he looks just like a Titan. Tell me I'm lying. This nigga looks just like a Titan.
Pale man, or he figures out that we are alone in the house and he welcomes himself in by quite literally breaking the door down. This visitor is one of the most mysterious characters throughout the game. Through his later conversations, he claims that he has been sent by a group just like himself to specifically target the protagonist, as he claims the protagonist is chosen. He even implies that he knows the protagonist and who he is. He even makes comments such as the protagonist being lonely and struggling with decision making, something that he wouldn't have to worry about anymore if he joins him. And by joining him, it means certain death. Here we get a little animation of how terrifying it is when he gets in. The results of the super visitor coming in is very quickly revealed, with him seemingly snapping the protagonist's neck and killing him as soon as he enters. We then get a depressing and sad outro to this ending, on how with the owner's disappearance, the house was abandoned with no one entering it, even though it's a perfectly nice and empty house. With passage of time, the house falls apart, being a distant memory just like the owner. One of the main characters who knocks on our door is a vigilante who holds a machine gun and interrogates the protagonist to reveal parts of his body to prove that he is not a visitor. This character is decorated with a few necklaces which are adorned by severed fingers and pulled out teeth of his victims.
I didn't even notice that bro was wearing trophies around his neck. Yeah, there's something psychologically wrong with this man.
Of victims he addresses as visitors, victims whom he killed through pillaging and purging towns and villages. This man is also seen attacking several people and groups of people hiding in a neighbor's house, and then eventually he goes on burning all the surrounding houses with all the survivors within them. During one of his interrogations, if we show a body part which might be mistaken with one of the identifying signs of the visitors, the madman vigilante doesn't waste any time to point his gun at the door, ready to kill the protagonist. The protagonist doesn't hold back either, just hoping that the vigilante will put his gun down. But of course, the vigilante is angry, screaming from the bottom of his lungs, and he starts shooting. The protagonist shoots back, which leads to the madman actually dying. A panicked and nervous protagonist, who has also been shot, starts beating the lifeless corpse of the madman, angry for all the innocent people that he had killed and burned. He takes a vow that he will not stop there and will kill anyone who has a weapon, who becomes a vigilante himself against the other vigilantes.
That's an ironic ending right there.
There is one ending which isn't too easy to achieve. In here, we need to identify all the humans correctly and save them, while shooting or avoiding any of the visitors. This will lead to one of the better endings, but still, it will be a miserable end. Throughout the story, watching the news and listening to the radio, we hear two opposing sides of the story. On the TV, we only hear good things about FEMA, while on the radio, some independent sources and secretive broadcasters report on how FEMA is a hostile and violent organization who have a zero-tolerance approach to containing and controlling the country. While on the TV, they are only reported to be good people who are watching over all the citizens, the radio reports that they are all lies, as FEMA is the cause behind so many deaths, and they are ruthlessly killing people in the quarantine zones that they have set up. In one breaking news, FEMA reports that a madman shut down an entire quarantine zone, killing every survivor within it. But the radio reports on how it was FEMA who did it, and they are trying to blame it on the vigilantes. The radio also reports that they are shooting everyone and closing down the quarantine zones, and as things only get worse, they even infiltrate homeowners' houses and use them as shelters for others. Eventually, FEMA silences all these secretive broadcasters, and at the end, they even shut down the state media, taking control of the radio and the TV. They only report their own propaganda and have full control over the country, as they even toppled down the government, claiming the government had been infiltrated by the visitors. They then claim that everyone has escaped from the quarantine zones, possibly to give themselves an excuse to execute everybody. And they tell the surviving people in their own homes to board up their windows and doors and to avoid letting anyone in. This leads to the protagonist taking the remaining survivors with him to the basement, where they have some reserved canned food and vegetables.
I watched this ending on Corey Kenshin's channel, so that explains how this happened right here.
The 2 months of miserable survival in the basement, having all the doors sealed, with everyone waiting for their inevitable death, they tune into the radio to hear something surprising. The new government, FEMA, reports that the solar activities of the sun have started to calm down, with the scientists predicting that it will be safe to go out during the day in a couple of days. This news is supposed to be happy, but for some weird reason, the protagonist feels disappointed, as if he was waiting for his demise or something else. As he contemplates more about it, he realizes that he was lonely. He had nothing better to look forward to, and this apocalypse was something that took his mind off of his miserable life. That's when he thinks he might live another year, maybe the next.
That boy enjoy having people over at the crib. He been living all alone all his life. Honestly, a quick fix to that: go out there, find you a little something, go talk to people. Nigga, go in a community. Shit.
After, or maybe at least 10 more years. But is this good or something that doesn't really matter? This ending is similar to the last one, but here we have let in some visitors by mistake and we are trapped in the cellar with them. The protagonist feels the ever-growing stares and paranoia building up. He doesn't feel safe within his own house and feels as if he is trapped with cold, calculating aliens who wait just for the right moment to strike. Before the visitors even attack and kill the protagonist, the fear paralyzes him and paranoia clouds his mind and judgment. That's when he wakes up one day, just to see several visitors have surrounded him and tear into his flesh with their bare hands.
Let the ops in.
The pain is immense and the assault is slow. As he feels every single minute of it, he imagines a lonely house in the distance in his mind, when his mind slowly fades away into the darkness. So could this mean when he is actually dying, he goes back to the place that the death sent him to after we find the hole? That could be a similar outcome, but definitely a much slower and more painful death than just directly falling into a large, deep hole. In one peculiar ending, we traverse across the Mushroom Land. Yup. This is as crazy as it sounds. There's one specific character being an old man who talks about mushrooms and gives us a mysterious page from his Book of Smiles, which gives us instructions on how we can travel to this
The Book of Smiles. Man, see, that's the thing about like horror games, bro. Like they really dive in deep with this, bro.
Land. Well, this ending is as serious as the name of the ending. Essentially, here the protagonist consumes a mushroom and goes into a cuckoo land, where he loses the plot. This is more of a comic relief ending, which doesn't seem to add much substance to the story. Another turn of events, if we lose our mind and give in to fear in order to survive and kill many people within the house, whether real human or visitor. We get a visit from the prophet and we achieve the killer ending. The protagonist loses his mind to the fear of the inevitable and the paranoia that anyone can be a terrifying visitor. The TV has said so to how violent they are. They have said what signs they carry. So anyone being sheltered here could be a visitor. The thought drives the protagonist mad and he takes action before the visitors can do anything, or at least that's what he thinks. That's when he turns the gun against himself to end this paranoia, the fear of pain, wanting to die in his own terms. But as soon as he is about to pull the trigger, the survivors come rushing and take the gun from him. The survivors look like monsters to the protagonist as his mind has taken a different turn. Eventually, the remaining survivors who do not think the protagonist is stable anymore beat the hell out of him and throw him out. As the sun comes out, he feels the heat and thinks of wishing he had ended it all in his own terms. That's when the sequence comes to an end, leaving it on a cliffhanger if the sun burned the protagonist, if a visitor or a vigilante got to him, or if he managed to survive.
Nigga, how you gonna throw me out of my house? Like you lucky that I even let you in here.
Another ending is the cultist ending when we join a cult group. Throughout the story, we get a character as a cult leader asking us to let in many of his people for a few days. Eventually, we see these cult members are setting up stakes and bonfires, and at the end, we learn they were setting them up for themselves, just waiting for the right moment. This is a death cult who believes in dying in their own terms and grouped with their own belief system. It makes it much easier than letting their minds wander into darkness of the unknown and the fear of the inevitable. At the end, the cult leader asks the protagonist to join their cult, and he can whether reject or accept. Accepting this offer, with the leader urging the protagonist to join them to march bravely towards death, the protagonist knows that he wants peace and wants to actually find the truth of what is after death. The cult leader mentions each death will be remembered and will have a name, and each will ascend to greatness. And true to his words, each member is being commemorated and remembered, adorned by candles and gravestones, having a more dignified death than falling to the visitors, burned by the sun, shot by FEMA or the vigilante, or eaten by hungry dogs roaming the city. In a way, if none of this is true, and if the dead did not go anywhere after their death, they are at least remembered by their friends. We then get a surreal sequence where a black hole tries to open, but then it closes with a voice saying that our mind is not built to handle the mysteries of the cosmos. In another turn of events, we encounter a young woman who seems to be a night worker. She constantly calls the protagonist baby and offers to comfort him in exchange of being let in. She even talks to the protagonist about his father, on how he was abusive, and the protagonist never liked him, even wishing he would die. Now he is just left with anger, pain, resentment, confusion, and trauma, yet missing his father. This woman spends the night sleeping on the same bed as the protagonist, but the protagonist notices bizarre paranormal things happening at night. In the night, he sees the woman as if giving birth, and he sees visions. Eventually, if we find a baby around the house, this lady does in fact give birth to a child, which would unlock the fatal child.
Y'all know the drill.
This leads to a series of unusual and surreal events. A pale baby appears in the air, possibly the child of this lady. A group of 3 then hold the child. They are in a trance state and try to pull the child in their own separate 3-way directions. That's when the protagonist cannot withstand it any longer, knowing of the inevitable, and shoots randomly somewhere at something. All of a sudden, it's all dark and black, but when the light returns, angels appear with a feminine figure. The figure explains the protagonist is their prophet and he will lead them to paradise and cleanse the earth as he shot the child, but there's no sign of the child anywhere anymore. The child was an object that would lead them to horrors beyond their comprehension. That's when the people carry the protagonist who doesn't understand what is happening. In the midst of all this, he sees one of these people holding a bunch of nails, and on that note, the ending comes to an end. So effectively, this means the protagonist
Bro, they're about to nail this nigga to a cross.
is going to be crucified for reasons that he doesn't understand. He has to be their messiah, saving them from their own sin.
God forbid there's ever a world catastrophic event, because I swear to you, if there are niggas like this, yeah, you gotta erase all of them. Gotta get them all up out of there.
Sacrificing himself. Well, not a very good ending if you ask me for the protagonist, who is just as confused as us in here. He doesn't understand how dying and sacrificing himself will somehow wipe out the sins of these strange people. But there's nothing else he can do. And finally, we have the FEMA ending. We get visited by multiple hazmat suit FEMA agents over and over. These guys are brutal and ruthless. They kill anyone who tries to run. They take random people for experiments and imprison them in quarantine zones. And when they run out of resources, they simply execute them. Human life is as cheap as it.
Bro, these niggas was just, it just seemed like anything was a sign at one point. Like, real talk, I'm talking about red eyes, the dirty nails one. Okay, that one kind of makes sense. But it was the armpit one, like some people just got hair up under their armpits. What are they supposed to do about that? What, like, seriously, what are they supposed to do like that? What if Brody forgot to shave last night? Somebody come knock on the door. You know what I'm saying? Hey, let me see them pics. He show him he gone. He ain't got, he already done. You know what I'm saying? Every other sign could be not there, but that one sign right there, he's done.
Sand for them. They lie and manipulate the viewers at home watching TV, and eventually they topple down the government and take over to control the entire country with brute force, violence, death, and manipulation. If we side with them and allow them to take as many survivors as they want without challenging them, if we kill at least one person per day showing our ruthlessness, we would get the offer to join their cause and become an agent ourselves. As we are recruited, the protagonist soon learns the brutal and unforgiving reality. FEMA is recruiting strangers aggressively because just as quick as they kill people, they lose many FEMA agents just as fast. They are not their own individuals anymore. They are robbed of their individuality and they are coaxed to a ruthless and punishing system. The protagonist doesn't know what will happen to his house and his old life, and he will never meet or know what happened to the people in his house. His eyes are symbolically wiped and covered up from his goggles with a reflection of destruction and flames taking over, portraying his personality and individuality being taken away, and he is now simply a pawn to serve the brutal machine FEMA agency is to destroy, kill, and pave a new path to a dystopian future FEMA sees fitting. So it's safe to say the story is hugely left ambiguous and for our own interpretation. There's no clear answer to what the visitors are, if the paranormal reality exists, how people can be infected, and the mystery behind the solar flares. What we know for certain is that the sun did really heat up, and in the period it killed many people and destroyed so much nature and many households. The ice caps started melting and the sea level started rising, with the shorelines and the coastline cities being flooded. People lost their minds and let their fears run wild, turning on each other. The same people with more power formed the FEMA agency, which systematically cleansed undesirables and whoever they wanted. Amongst them, cults rose to power and many sought death in their own terms. Many chose to become violent vigilantes and kill people, whilst many tried to help others. In the middle of all this, we are told that there are paranormal entities known as visitors, entities that have risen from under the ground. They not only are violent and rip people apart, but they also infect people with parasitic worms or insects that...
I was about to say, at this point, you know what I'm saying? The fact that they came from underground, right? They came from underground. Like, those people they either have to already be dead. Like, I imagine that it's either a parasite that took over somebody that was dead. You know what I'm saying? They crawled up out the ground, and then all of a sudden, they ended up killing those around. That's the only explanation. Or, you know what I'm saying, there really is a whole nother civilization of them just under there, which would be crazy.
In the brain. Do they have anything with the entity we find in the hole? Are they just psychological beings that infect our minds, or are they real, who very likely kill us? That is why we have the super visitor, who somehow is capable of taking down an entire armed military squad, yet he is unable to enter a house with multiple people if he is not invited in. Is there
I'm guessing bullets must not affect this nigga.
sort of limit to what these visitors can do, and that is why they ask for permission to enter the house? That is the most likely case in my opinion.
And that part right there, that's on some like vampire type, you know what I'm saying? The can I come in thing, that's on some vampire type ish. But then again, if you're alone in the house, he invites himself in anyway, so that doesn't even make sense either.
Permission to enter the house, as otherwise they stay out. The challenge though is that we also need to have people inside the house to be safe from them, as they tend to enter empty houses. And that is it for this video, folks. If you enjoyed it, make sure to stay tuned for more by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell.
Hey man, this would be something that would do well as a movie. Like, real talk, this would be a dope horror movie right here. You know what I'm saying? Somebody hope this nigga get the funds so they can create this right here. No cap. But yeah, man, that is No, I'm Not Human at All. 10 endings. I'm gone. Hey, real quick before you go, like the video, subscribe. Thank you.
Ain't never seen tears from a gangster, so why do I want me to cry? fighting depression. Talk to them spirits, use them justice that help me get by. But I cannot lie, yeah, that shit hurt me bad. When I got that car, told me you died. Like how the fuck can they take you? Man, I hope I wake up, it's a lie. Couldn't walk to that hearse car, I remember the words and I remember the look in your eyes.